Over the next few lessons, you are going to be making a large A3 background with a close-up of an animal, focusing on the textures of the animal using wax, and then you're going to add watercolour to that to make it nice and detailed. So the first thing that you need to decide is which animal you're going to concentrate on. Out of the two sheets that you've been given, there is a rather wide range, and they range in difficulty and they range in texture as well. So something that is relatively easy would be something like the butterfly or the giraffe over here, and that is mostly because they are made up of large shapes, so they're quite easy to copy over as an outline. Getting a little bit harder would be something like this one. So this is more of an intermediate animal, and I'd say probably this one here is intermediate, and even this one here. Getting a bit more difficult is going to be the tiger or this lizard here because of all the detail in it. The wolf is actually quite tricky as well. And the zebra can be quite tricky because you need to get the outlines in the right places to make it look perfect. So your first challenge is to upscale the image that you're working with. I'm going to work with two different pictures so that I can show you the difference between adding texture with something that is smooth and something that is fluffy like this one. So upscaling means that you're going to take it from this size to this size here. So my paper is portrait because these images are mostly in a portrait orientation, so it makes it a lot easier to copy over my shape. I'm going to start with this one here, so an intermediate, slightly easier piece to copy. And I know some of you might be thinking, easy? There's lots of scales, but actually once you get through the fact that you need that big circle and start working through these shapes, it actually becomes a lot easier to do. So to mark out my shape of the eye, because the eye is the biggest focal point on here, I'm going to marker on how big I want that eye to be. And I'm going to do that with a top mark and a bottom mark, and then one on either side there. I'm just going to look at it a little bit. I think it probably could go a bit wider there. Okay. So with those marks now, I'm going to join them up with my curvy lines to make my circle. I'm having to press slightly harder than I'd like because I want the video to capture it, but start with a nice light pencil to begin with, and if you make any mistakes, you know you can rub it out. Okay, there's my circle to begin with. In the middle of the circle, there is this long, almost oval shape or diamond shape, and it doesn't quite touch the bottom or the top, so I'm going to make a little marker there, and then come down with a curved line and a curved line there. Okay. Right, there's my main focus. Then around the outside, I've got these large scale shapes. So I'm going to start from this point here because it's about in the middle, or where I put that little marker to begin with. So here, you can't quite see the picture, but I shall show it in a minute. And it goes right up to the eye and over the top. And they're not all uniform, meaning that not every scale is the same shape. So don't be tempted to go, oh, they're all a sort of semicircle shape or a square shape, and then draw them all in looking like that, because actually when you look at them, they are all slightly different. So I'm going down to the next one. The only thing you don't need to be so accurate about is if you find that you're not the exact measurement, or you're having to add an extra scale here and there, then don't worry too much about that. I'm not going to be counting your scales on your piece of work. Okay. And then I'm working my way down and adding in the larger ones. Okay, I'm just going to pause it and finish off those scales so that you can see the completed outcome. Okay, there's my finished eye drawing with my scale shapes around the side. As there are a couple of other shapes on the eye, so there is this sort of highlight shape, there is this sort of shape, cutting across. There is also this line down here. That might be something that you like to add in, or actually I advise to add in, just really lightly, so that when you add your wax crayon, it's not necessarily a shape that you need to think about, but actually it's just a boundary. So you know that actually when you're adding that little bit of black texture, that it needs to stay within that area. So this bit here is like a white highlight, so I need to add my lighter colour within there. Okay, all very helpful when you're adding in the next stage. Okay, so next I'm going to start again, but this time I am going to start with this one over here. So this one's slightly more complicated because it's got fur, but I'm going to show you how to proportion up the page so that you get something that looks good. So I'm just going to pop that out of the way and grab another piece of paper on the back of there we go. Okay, so looking at upscaling this piece of work, again the eye is the main feature, and if you look at the picture at this top line here, if that is the top line of your paper, there we go, bring that in view, then I need to look at proportioning that line up so that I get a similar use of the space. So this black stripe, for example, is going to need to be from about there, and then this other black stripe over here. Just give myself a few markers, and down the side as well. So if this is on the side of my piece of work, I need to figure out where that's going to be. So it's almost going to be halfway, and then I've got a little gap. Okay, and then that there. Okay, and it's this line I'm going to focus on first. So this line and this line, because that's what joins up to the eye across the piece of work. And the eye is just off to center right over here. So I know I've put my picture out. Oh no, you can still see my picture. I'm going to start by going across the paper because it does go across that way. And then it very quickly starts to go down, round to form the eye shape. Again, there I need that marker right at the top. Can't see it where I'm doing it. There we go. And that's where that stripe is going to go, and right across to form the eye shape there. And then that whole section pretty much is made up of the eye. I'm being very sketchy with this one because the shapes are more complicated than the lizard, so I'm having to just sort of sketch out the outline, because I know that if I make a mistake I can just quickly rub that out. And I'm sort of editing myself as well with the sketch rather than being very definitive with my line. So that black stripe goes through there, another one. Okay, I'm already starting to get the shape of my drawing. I'm just going to pause it and then show you the outcome. Okay, there's my outline. I'm now ready to move to the next stage. So now I'm going to add wax to both pictures, and I'm going to record myself separately doing that so this doesn't have one giant video. Okay, see you in a minute.